Hey guys, I'm Ray McGuff, and this is Uncle Ray's Corner. And I'll tell you right now, it's an all new episode. It's going to be streaming for free right on YouTube. With me, as always, I have Jean Paul Mantia. Jean Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a lovely day. The sun is out. Spring is upon us,
Yes, it
and
is.
and we are going to talk about a kind of sad and depressing movie. So let's do this.
We are, but it's going to be exciting. So, okay, let me get right into it. We are going to talk about John Cassavetes' 1976 film, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Cosmo Vitelli, Ben Gazzara, the proprietor of a sleazy, low-rent Hollywood cabaret, has a real affection for the women who strip in the peep shows and the staff who keep up his dingy establishment. He also has a major gambling problem that's gotten him into quite a bit of trouble. When Cosmo loses big time at an underground casino run by mobster Mort, played by Seymour Cassel, he isn't able to pay up. Mort then offers Cosmo the chance to pay back his debt by knocking off a pesky, mafia-protected bookie. Again, this film released in February 15th, 1976, directed by famed director John Cassavetes. John Nicholas Cassavetes was an American actor and filmmaker who helped pioneer modern independent cinema. He's often called the father of American independent cinema and the godfather of the movement in general. Cassavetes first gained recognition for his roles in films like The Killers and Edge of the City. He was known for a demanding on his film sets an intensity that was not typical for the time period. He was also considered a self-financing producer and distributed a lot of his own films. He was born in New York in 1929 and died in Los Angeles in 1989 at the age of 59 years old. Also, we have, a it looks like his music director was Bo Hardwood on almost all of his films, and Hardwood was a long time Cassavetes subordinate, and he basically did all of his soundtracks, and in particular I think this soundtrack is really great. So I'd like to check out some more of Bo Hardwood's music at some point, but I thought he was worth mentioning. The cast is Ben Gazzara playing Cosmo Vitelli, the main character, Timothy Carey playing Flo, Alan Rubin playing Marty Ritz, Seymour Cassel, who plays Mort Wheel, and Alice Freudland playing Sherry. So, I know, Jean-Paul, that you had some other deets, so hit us with them.
All right, I'll go with some other dates. First off, as PC as those deets are, I will say it's not a cabaret. It was a straight up strip club.
I know.
Let's be honest. That's a nice way of saying it was a classy establishment. It was a strip club. But I will. One of the most interesting things, especially because once we kind of go into this movie, is this movie has similar vibes to one movie called Taxi Driver. And the reason I bring that up is Taxi Driver was released 1 week before this movie was released. So there's a lot of comparison in a lot of circles between this story and that movie, especially because of it being a character-driven piece. And that's really the heart of this movie, but as we will go into. Also, interesting fact that I found out. So, like you stated, the movie came out in 1976. That is, it was its initial release, but then 2 years later, in 1978, it had a new release, and it was a completely different release because it was shorter by 30 minutes, which you're like, that's a lot of time. Why or how would they cut that? I think partly because Cassavetes himself is a weird perfectionist. If you kind of start doing deep dives, he really prides himself on stuff, but then the criticism of how this movie initially was criticized as being dull and boring in a lot of parts, that he went with his editor and re-edited the movie, and they trimmed it down by 30 minutes. And I bet you're asking yourself, what 30 minutes could they have cut from this movie? So
Yeah,
ask me,
'cause
Randy,
it seems
what would
pretty
they cut?
tight. Yeah, what would they cut?
What would they cut? They cut a lot of the, and well, like I said, we'll kind of go into it when we discuss. But I think a lot of the scenes where he goes back to the strippers' homes and kind of that feeling of getting to know the strippers or the cabaret dancers outside of the cabaret club.
Uh huh.
So a lot of that kind of dialogue and a lot of those kind of scenes were cut out, which gave it that 30-minute less runtime. The critics still panned this movie when they released that cut. Now, retroactively, Cassavetes ended up having a amazing career with a bunch of other things, and like you talked about, being independent cinema, that was another reason why people kind of latched onto him after the fact. You know, like most artists, you're not famous when you're alive, but when you pass, everybody's going to start doing deep dives and start retrospectively looking at your works. And this was one that latched on to a lot of critics after the fact because they noticed like shots and noticed the aesthetics and the dialogue that it came back to, then people reloving it, and even Criterion, releasing a Criterion edition of this. And I don't have the Criterion edition, but I'm not sure if the Criterion edition has both versions of the movie, because I'd be interested to see the difference.
I was gonna buy it after I watched it, and it's just a DVD release on Criterion, and I would prefer to have a higher format, So
Yeah, I would too, because I think definitely this movie lends to someone doing a 4K scan because it's shot on film and it's gritty, and that grittiness would translate well in a higher resolution.
I
But
agree.
that's just me being a technical nerd. So I guess as I said in a couple little things, let's just jump into it. I guess
Okay.
you want me to
What?
go or you want to go?
Um, I'll let you go and then I'll go. Okay.
Okay, sounds great. So like I mentioned, the dialogue in this movie, I can see why it inspired a lot of people, especially I would say Tarantino. This feels like something Tarantino would absolutely gravitate and love because it's his kind of style of filmmaking where it's kind of felt like it's underground. You are, I wouldn't say it's not a first person perspective of it, but you are following this character and you're following him in such a way. And yeah, how it's shot, you get distance shots of him, like when he's just crossing the street and doing that, and there's still dialogue going on, and it's just really interesting. And even like, I would say my favorite scene in the movie is when he does that, and it's an iconic scene. It's the him in the phone booth when he's making that call,
Mm-hmm.
and all the zaniness there, and just that dialogue. It's just so really fascinating. It grabs you. Also the scene when he goes to the bar and orders food, and he's like specifically goes, "No, I want it this way in a paper bag, and it has to go like this because my wife will get mad."
Yeah.
It's just so neat the way he kind of paints those pictures. So yeah, I can see why, like I said, after the fact, and if this is your first time doing it, that you'll kind of gravitate to this movie because, yeah, it was shot in 1970, but it feels like something that could translate to the 90s, maybe early 2000s. It has that kind of feel to it, so it's really inviting and really warm. So I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Along with that, my only real negative I feel I have about this movie is its length. There are some moments where I feel like this is dragging. We don't need another scene yet of, just titties, because It becomes numb and old really fast because
Well, they
it's not really
are at a
progressing.
strip club.
No, I know, I get it, You're at a strict one, but again, the story is not progressing enough that you're just like, okay. I mean, judge the point. Look at a movie like a Nora, where it's also set in a strip club, and at least there was a little bit more going on besides just the stripping. That it just kind of like you felt like there's a little bit more versus this, where it's like, okay, now we're just going to watch the ringmaster of the strip club. Uh, the way he did his dialogue, it's really nice. But after a while of seeing it so much, you're just kind of like, okay, I get the point. Let's move on. So I want to see the 30-minute cut just to kind of compare if I would feel I would probably enjoy this a little better. Again, I watched the 76 cut, so when I give my rating, it's going to be based off of that.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, I hadn't heard of this. That's what's crazy until you told me about it, and I sought it out and checked it out, and this is right up my alley. This is something I truly enjoy this kind of movie. It's it's a crime drama, but it's more about the people, than the crime itself. Does if that makes sense,
Yeah, it's definitely a character piece.
Yeah,
So
so I love the way this opens too, how we meet our main character. He's sitting in this open air cafe in California. It's a nice sunny day. People are treating each other nice, and this dude shows up that he owes money to, and he's like, kind of like, "Fuck you," right? He's such a dick to him, but it's his last payment on that particular debt, and it's really cool because it opens it up as, oh, this guy, he has a serious problem, right? Like at first you're just like, oh, he's a normal business guy, and then you're like, oh wow, he's in debt. So
degenerate gambler.
gambler. But you don't really get more. So it opens like that. Then you get to see the inner workings of the club he runs and how much energy and time and money, probably, as well as thought he goes into the performances and the people that work there, right? Like, so you're like, okay, well, he's a smart guy, and then you get into that mafia gambling casino, and you see what he really is. And you're right, he is a degenerate gambler. That's he doesn't care about anything but gambling. That's what I took from this. Like, his relationships have suffered because we learn. Spoiler alert! I'm going to talk about the ending too. But as
Do
the
it.
ending gets near, we learn more and more about this guy. He is somebody that people love, but he can't show love. He tries, but he fails.
I don't think he's capable of love.
Yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt, but when it comes to I don't think he's capable of love because his one true love, or because the addiction has taken over him,
yes,
is gambling. So
exactly.
he can't love something else because there's nothing else that can take its place.
There's one particular girl in his life that he, in a different scenario, he would be married to, right? Who works at the club, and you get to see her life and how he has affected them, and at the end of the film, the whole movie is called The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, so it's spoiler alert. But if you haven't seen the movie, he goes to kill this Chinese bookie, and it's one of the coolest shots in a movie I've seen in a long time. It starts with him breaking into the place, going around the security, popping the guy, and getting out. And he takes a bullet, and when he gets out, he goes to the young lady's house who we discussed earlier. And the movie ends with him bleeding out, and then people trying to help him. But then it cuts to the nightclub, and we see somebody else running it. So I took that to mean that he bled out and died, and the mob took his spot over. Now, Jean Paul, you had read that there was a secondary scenario for that, right?
So yeah. So there's that's the thing about, any kind of art, and art is subjective to different viewers. But I think definitely from what a lot of critics and a lot of back and forth with this is, a lot of people don't believe that he passed. There's the argument that basically he did give up the club, but went into hiding and is still alive. But I'm like, yeah, but none of the movie kind of would explain any of that.
Right.
And especially because the ending, even with the credits, you still get the ringleader of the establishment kind of doing his shtick and doing his show. So I guess you could kind of say, okay, well, he let him still do it, or do it more, because there is a scene in the middle where they have that weird argument back and forth of, I bring in and start the girls going, and I'm essentially the what do they call that? The warmer? No, what's
The warm-up act?
the warm-up act? Yeah, that then gets the crowd going, and it's like,
Yeah. It's a comedian, for people that don't know, it's a comedian
yeah, sorry, yeah.
that introduces each act, and he's kind of like the ringleader. Like if you're ringmaster, if you were at a carnival or at a Barnum and Bailey circus, right? You'd have the guy that comes out and he is introducing the acts and he's being entertaining. That's what this guy is, and he's saying he's the actual star of the.
Yeah, MC is probably a good word.
MC,
right?
yeah,
MC,
right.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's what they would call him. Yeah.
That's what they call him. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, well, no, the main show is people are coming here to see the women. Let's be honest. That's really what people want to see. That's why people go to these establishments. Right. They don't come to be like, da 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 da. Yeah. I'm Carrot Top.
Right. I'm Carrot Top.
Yeah.
But listen, so I think that overall, you can see influences like this movie. Clearly, this director, you start to look it up, this director clearly is an influence among some of our best and brightest directors, So you can see, like you said, Tarantino. I would even say that even though Taxi Driver came out, same time later on, Scorsese even seems like he has some influences from this. There are a lot of independent film directors that said that this is on their list, the Criterion Closet. This is on so many people's list. That's why you were telling me to check it out, because I asked you about it. Like, what about this movie is so great? And it seems like this was a kicking off point for this kind of movie. So
I do have to say my tagline though.
What?
When I worked at a video store.
Oh Jesus!
Is when I personally got introduced to this, because this was also one that was on the shelf that I was like, what the heck is this? And it would not rent well at all. And I watched it and I was like, I gravitated, because again I worked in the 90s. The first thing that came to mind for me was Tarantino.
Right.
And so, anytime a new Tarantino movie would come out and people would be like, oh, I really enjoy Tarantino's movies, can you think of something else? I made this movie rent.
Nice.
I pushed this movie because I said, look, if you're a fan of Tarantino, this guy influenced Tarantino. And I said, and as weird as can be, it's the same guy who directed Rosemary's Baby, which is a completely
different kind of film.
Different kind of movie from A to Z.
Wait. Rosemary's Baby, I thought was.
I'm sorry, not Rosemary's Baby.
Polanski. Yeah.
Polanski. Sorry. What's the other? Oh my gosh! I did it wrong, didn't I?
That's all right. But yeah, on my end, I think the only thing I can say negative about the movie was some of it did feel like filler. Especially the scenes in the strip club. I didn't need to see the entire act, but it was neat to see that filmed, but it seemed like more of a bonus feature, something later that we would get, but I'm just going to go into the rating, if that's cool,
Go for it.
All right. That's the only complaint I have about the movie, is that some of it could have been edited a little better, but this is my kind of movie, so I'm giving this an A. Not an A plus, not an A minus, just an A. It is worth your time. I think it's worthy of a better, like a 4K restoration would be amazing. I don't know why that hasn't happened, but this is probably one of the best crime films I've seen from this time period, hands down, for me.
And I am gonna give it a B.
Okay.
And again, I'm giving it because of the editing. Again, I want to see this 30-minute less cut that might bring it in a little tighter. There's just some scenes in the middle of this movie where I feel like they take a little too long. And by no means is that like the end all be all, because it's not a 3-hour movie. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's not, terrible. But I think if you took out a couple little things here and there, I definitely think it would make it a little bit tighter. I love how it's shot. I mean, I cannot. The cinematography in this film is so great.
It looks great. The soundtrack is fantastic.
The soundtrack is great. Yeah. And so, and I love, and then there's just scenes of dialogue that it's like, wow, this is just really well punchy written, well dialogue. But I would also give a slight negative mark, I would say, on the character itself, because I'm going to be put on the critics hat here. Okay, so a week before this movie, you see a movie like Taxi Driver, where I feel like the characters in that movie are so well written and so well acted, and just because you compare both of these movies, because they're very similar in terms of that.
Are you saying that Ben Gazzara isn't a good actor? Because I thought he was fantastic.
I'm not saying he's a bad actor. But Robert De Niro versus him, acting wise.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I get what you're saying.
In terms of both of those characters,
but they're a different kind of performance.
I totally agree with you, but I'm also taking in fact the way a character is structured and written. I feel like I'll be like the critics of old who reviewed this movie in '76. De Niro's Taxi Driver slightly beats it in this, and that's why I would give it that B mark. By no means do I say don't watch this movie, because I do think this is one of those movies, like I told you, when I worked at a video store. I got you to watch it, and
that's true. I mean, once you told me about it,
part of my username is Bookie75. May have used it from here, might have not. I don't know.
I did see, like I said, when you told me about it, then I saw it on some Criterion closets. I looked it up, and I thought, well, definitely got to see this. So it's worth your time. Seek it out. I think, definitely. Let's see where it's playing right now, I can tell you. It's available on HBO Max, YouTube Prime, Hulu, the Roku channel, on some channel on the Roku channel. So yeah, seek it out. We're going to transition now, because we've spent a little bit more time than last time talking about the movie, which is great. I love that. But we've got 2 other segments we want to get to. First up, we will have entertainment news, or movie news.
Ooh.
All right. Here's a couple of headlines. I'll say a bullet point, and we'll talk about it. Gene Hackman dead at 95.
I mean, it's kind of sad.
Anything to add? Yeah.
I mean, that was tough, because, like, you did your TikTok yesterday on movies that kind of you grew up watching, and he really was a great actor. Mm-hmm. And one that you did not mention, that I'm surprised you didn't mention, unless my brain is foggy. He's in an Enemy of the State, right?
Yeah, that's not one of my favorite performances. He's great in it, but I was
Yeah,
thinking about movies that when I saw them, they changed my perspective on
right.
things, you know. So
Well,
like
and then obviously Hoosiers is another great one.
that one,
I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of basketball, but
I'm not either.
I'll watch Hoosiers.
I debated on putting that on the list, and then I ended up putting oh, I put maybe Superman on there instead. I can't remember because I saw Hoosiers very young too.
Yeah.
My parents were sports movies fans too, you know, as well as old hippies. But my dad loved a good sports movie, so I saw Hoosiers when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. So, but yeah, tremendous performance. Gene Hackman. You could always count on him. If you saw his name on something, even if the movie wasn't that great, you were going to get a good performance, you know.
Yeah.
So
And then I would like you said, Superman. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a child of the '80s. I watched the Superman movies. Even the bad Superman movie that he was in was still entertaining with him in it.
I love look.
Yeah.
Superman the movie changed me because I was like a little kid and I'm like, this is insane, you know. For me, he will always be that character, Lex Luthor, you know. So
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
bet when you worked at a video store, they probably rented the hell out of that movie.
Oh, you know they did. And then you wanted, the day before that we lost
Oh,
Michelle Trachtenberg.
that was actually my next one. Buffy and Gossip Girl star Michelle Trachtenberg dead at 39. My question to you would be, since you know a little bit more about this than I do you think the Buffy reboot is now dead?
I don't think that it's dead. I do hope that they acknowledge her in it, because I am a huge fan of Buffy, and I rewatched it during the pandemic, and I really enjoyed getting into it. And then, Final Girl Paige on TikTok has done some great recaps of Buffy that makes me go, you know what? I think I want to watch it again. So
I tried a few years ago. I watched the season 1, and it's just doesn't hit for me like it did when it aired. I don't know.
Season 1 is a rough season, but as they progress, they do get better. I also liked Angel a little bit more, so that's just me.
I think that one was a better written at first show, and it had definitely better acting in parts. But you're right. Buffy progressively got better because they got into what they knew they wanted to do.
Right, and they introduced Michelle Trachtenberg's character, which was in itself it was an interesting thing. And then
idea.
being again from Buffy to then branching into the 2000s, one of the biggest hits of the 2000s that I think it's a hit only because, again, working at a video store, this movie we rent like crazy. Eurotrip.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
People forget she's in Eurotrip.
She's great in that. Really fun. She was a really well-rounded actress. She was funny. Yeah. She was able to be serious. It's a big loss. I feel. I know that she hasn't been in a whole lot of stuff recently, but that's due to health problems apparently. Yeah. So she was a pretty cool chick, and it's disappointing that she went so young. So that was in the news. Also, you and I saw Captain America: Brave New World. Ticket sales dropped by 68% this last week.
Still number one movie.
Hold on, 289 million worldwide so far. Flop or a hit? I don't know. At this point, I'm thinking it's probably a flop.
See, I'm going to disagree with you only because if you say that, then the whole movie industry is a flop right now. Because let's be honest, people aren't going to the movies. So, in terms of movies with absolute staying power, it has been a while since we have really had those kind of movies. And then there are movies that I'm surprised are ginormous hits. I mean, that Mufasa movie has made $1 billion.
It's got legs for some reason.
Moana 2 is getting there too.
I think that's probably why I think that it's a flop, right? So those movies are general audience movies, sure, but people take young kids to see superhero movies too. So my thoughts are, if those movies can carry over and do big box office still, what has dropped off with this movie? Because to me, when you and I saw it, I thought it was great. I really liked it a lot. I think it's got a lot of rewatchability myself.
Yeah, and the theater was what 95% packed. I would say.
Yeah,
I
we
mean, it
were
wasn't
there
100%.
on the day after opening day.
Yeah, so
We were there
opening weekend.
yeah,
So
opening weekend.
it still made. And again, that's the thing. Movies now, because of how fast the turnaround is between, they call it the window between theatrical and streaming now at home has shortened by what 3 weeks,
3 weeks probably. Yeah, at
2 weeks
least.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, uh, you know, I went to the theater Valentine's Day weekend to see the movie The Companion, and it's now on VOD as
Yeah,
of last week. So it had a 3 week run. I'm like, that's crazy to me. That's just wow.
yeah. I watched it on VOD,
And it's a great movie. And it's
Yeah.
a great movie. So I don't know. It's hard to say if it's really. I mean, I would say it would really a bigger a way of saying it was a flop is okay. Can it stay number one? You know, several weeks. Well, it did for 2 weeks. So far so good for it. I don't see it as a complete flop now in terms of like going from 100% sale to 60% sale. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That tracks, especially because, like we said, with so many new movies coming out, if there's a new movie that's going to beat it out right away, then yeah, it would be a flop. But it didn't. It stayed number one. So
I
I would say it's too early to really to make that decision
okay.
because if it's one of those things, if we see like
I gotta say,
it would be
68% is a
normal.
big drop off, buddy.
No, I agree.
68% is a huge drop.
That's
So,
a huge number. I totally agree. But you go from 100% to 68%. What's the difference there? So like 40 something.
32%.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that's really the number, right? Because in terms of audiences are going,
It's still a big. It's a big
it's
dip.
a big dip. It's a big dip. I agree with you. I mean, I do also believe releasing that movie in February is a misstep. If you want a superhero action movie, I don't think the week after Valentine's Day is really the best week to release it.
I've said that too. I don't know. I don't understand why you would release a tentpole. They were just dropping it off, like we said, in the dumping grounds for some reason, and I don't understand that because it was better than a dumping grounds film. So
Yeah, yeah. And
But-
again, there's the rumors that it had so many reshoots and so many this and so many that people kind of bought into that. So, but the average people and I would say more than the average people did go and see it, and who knows, maybe it'll be gangbusters on streaming, gangbusters when it hits physical media.
well,
I mean, that's usually what tends to happen lately with Marvel movies. And then there is like we have talked about, there's superhero fatigue.
yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Well,
that's really what it is.
speaking of that, of Marvel, Disney streaming, Kathleen Kennedy most likely bowing out at the end of this year as well. That was in the news this week. What do you think?
That was, I mean, well, 2 days, a day after that got kind of retracted. She said she's not going to retire. She said she's going to be picking her successor. So I'm not sure if it's her nice way of saying, no, guys, that's not what's happening, or yes, guys, that really is what's happening.
She doesn't want to give us the She doesn't want to give us the satisfaction. Of
That's
that.
right. That is true. She does not want to give the satisfaction to anyone, one way or another, whether you're in her camp or not in her camp.
There should be no camp for her
Yeah.
at this point. She has taken several IPs and fucking ground them into the ground, and has no remorse whatsoever defending complete bullshit ideas and flops and terrible choices and horrible planning sessions, and she deserves to be fired, in my opinion. Anybody else does their job this poorly, they're fired. But she wants to say that she's not stepping down, she's picking somebody, okay. But You know, somebody knew some shit was happening because that wasn't just reported in the behind-the-scenes shit you and I read. It was on mainstream news.
No,
So,
I agree. I agree.
speaking of mainstream news, this weekend is the Oscar weekend, buddy. Got your Oscar hat on. I won't be watching because I could give a shit, but I did put a little list together of the best categories for me. So I'm going to say each one and tell you my pick, and then you tell me what you think. Okay?
Okay.
Oscar predictions: Best Picture. I prefer it to be Anora after watching Anora, but I think it's going to be The Brutalist. What do you think?
I keep going back and forth. I have now just The Brutalist to watch out of the 10 nominated movies, and I keep going back and forth of will the Academy actually give a movie like Anora an Oscar for Best Picture, or will it go to what is historically a Oscar kind of Best Picture movie, which is The Brutalist?
Yeah.
It's tough because, like I was telling you, there's so much little controversy in and out of all of these pictures that are nominated this year that it's kind of tough how they're going to go. I mean, I also feel like Conclave has, a chance. I thought Conclave was a good movie, not a great movie in certain parts. I mean, there are parts that I'm like, wow, this is awesome because it's really interesting. The whole behind the scenes of picking a new pope, which you wouldn't think of, and
Right.
they make it really interesting, and the acting across the board is phenomenal. So, out of the two that you said, going back to your two picks, I'm going to probably go with The Brutalist. I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to go with The Brutalist. I still haven't seen it. I'm going to watch it in the next couple of days
Yeah.
before the Oscars and make my final judgment. You can check my social medias. I've been reviewing all of them, and you can hear and read
That's
my 2 cents of them.
movie reviews on TikTok and
And movie reviews
movie
on
reviews on
everything else.
Insta, baby. He's on Insta, this guy.
I'm on Insta. I'm on everything.
So my pick for best director is Sean Baker for Anora. I didn't even consider anybody else after watching Anora. So
Um, Let me look at the directors again quickly.
well, it's just. I mean, do you think the director of The Brutalist, the director of Conclave? You know, what I mean, it's the pick.
Okay, well, that's not the case. There are some
of them.
There was a specific director that got nominated for Best Picture that is not.
I know.
Not getting the love, and I'm sorry because I know you love.
Villeneuve, you are my
Because
hero, and if you were on the list, I would have picked you, buddy.
I know how much you
Look
love
me in
Denny.
the eye, Denny. Me and you, right here. I would have picked you. These old fucks, they don't know what they're doing over there. But I think that Sean Baker has won pretty much every award coming up. The Brutalist won a couple. The guy that did The Brutalist, but I think Sean Baker's got it locked, in my opinion.
I mean, I hope that yes, whoever wins Best Picture also wins Best Director because, like I have said many times, to me it does not make sense if you are nominating a picture that you're also not going to nominate the director. The director's the one that shapes everything, that controls everything that you see on the screen, that makes it a Best Picture. So if those don't go hand in hand, that makes no sense to me, and never has when they do that. That's why I am also. I mean, again, I wasn't the biggest Dune 2 fan, but I am also upset if you're going to nominate that it is a Best Picture, then you should also nominate the director for it because they're the ones that giving you the true vision that you see.
I liked Anora so much, though, that out of those picks, I was like, that guy deserved it because he crafted a movie that delighted the hell out of me. I had zero expectations, and it just tickled my fancy. So,
and it gave you a lot of anxiety.
It did. I was anxious through the whole thing. Best actor is most likely going to Adrian Brody, but I'd like to give a shout out to my buddy Timmy Chalamet. After watching A Complete Unknown, that guy disappeared into Bob Dylan. He was Bob Dylan. And I thought that deserved the award, but I think Adrian Brody's got it locked. What do you think?
I mean, I hate Timmy Chalamet. I really, really dislike him as an
I don't want to
actor.
hear your thoughts on
But,
Timothy Chalamet. I did that to
but,
myself.
but, 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 holy cow, his performance was so good.
Yeah.
I think he's getting it. I really think they're going to give it to
Oh, you
him.
think they're going to give him an over Adrian? Huh?
I I think he's going to get it. Again, I haven't watched The Brutalist yet, but
Right.
I really think the performance in a
I thought
subpar
Adrian Brody.
movie.
Don't get me wrong. The
Yeah.
Brutalist, when you watch it, he is phenomenal. In Adrian Brody is fantastic. But as I grew up with watching Bob Dylan stuff, because my parents were old hippies, I've seen Bob Dylan talk. I've seen him interact. I've seen him in things. I've seen him live. I know for a fact that Timothy Chalamet did that character of Bob Dylan, the real guy, justice. Like you couldn't ask for a better performance if you were being, if it was your biopic, right? That was perfect. So, but I think Adrian Brody probably he's the
Okay.
traditional pick in my opinion.
Right.
So, yeah.
And like I've told you before, when it comes to biopics, when it comes to acting in it, to me, it's are you actually acting or are you doing an impression of that individual?
And
And
he's
if you
acting.
do and if you do an impression of an individual, I don't believe that's acting, so I'm sorry, I'm not going to give it to you. But like you just said, this is the reason why I think Timothy Chalamet, this is his movie. He did, and again, I don't think the movie was great, but I think his acting was so good that
Right.
it surpassed anything that was really the movie itself. It's just his acting was so good. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot for Timmy, and
Yeah.
again, for someone who hates Timmy, he made me believe that he knows how to act.
That's good to know. I agree. I hope he gets it. If not, Adrian Brody is a solid choice. But best actress, I have listed as this is the final one I'm going to talk about. There's more categories, but I only wanted to do a couple. Demi Moore for The Substance most likely will win. But Mikey Madsen really, again, Honora, I keep talking about it. She really impressed me. Mikey Madison, I think she deserves it just as much as Demi Moore, honestly. What do you think?
Um, I'm going to give it to Demi Moore. I think her acting in that movie is not only because the Academy tends to always say we're sorry because of the past, and her never being nominated for any of the roles that she's done. I mean, her role in Cinema Fire when she was really young, really
Really
great.
good. Yeah.
And this is the Lifetime Achievement Award for Demi Moore.
I would have gave it to her for Nothing But Trouble myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Because
Sausages.
you don't let Bobo and Little Devil in the house. You just don't
That's
do it.
right. You just don't do it. um, sorry, I just love that movie, and I
I
should
do
love it as
too.
much as I
That's
do.
what I would have gave it for.
Yeah. But yeah, or again, Ghost, another movie that she did a great job in.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Fantastic.
this is the Lifetime Achievement Award for her. She's getting it. I can't say it. And again, yes, Honora, she did a great job. The way she transformed her accent and just believing the way she acted as a crazy Jersey Russian weirdness that is the Honora craziness Pretty Woman version of that movie. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if Demi does not get it because there's just something about that performance. I mean, I strongly believe that The Substance is a better movie than some of the other Best Picture nominated movies. But again, unfortunately, there is the stigma of a horror movie. There hasn't been many that have been actually nominated for Best Picture and actually won. And so there's only one of them, that's Silence of the Lambs. And so, yeah, in this case, give horror some love. Give Demi the Lifetime Achievement Award.
I
which
think
is
she'll
the
get
Academy
it.
Award.
For all of those reasons, I absolutely think so. So on that note, the Oscars are this Sunday. People tune in. The
Conan
next
O'Brien's
episode,
hosting.
yeah, the next episode we will we'll discuss the winners. I'm sure there'll be some upsets and things. Until then, we have a segment we do when we're wrapping things up because we're getting a little long in the tooth here. It's called "What's New on Your Shelf?" But first off, I want to say what's new in my closet because this came today. I ordered a vintage Sopranos T-shirt that came to me.
Ooh, that's pretty
So
cool.
I'm pretty excited about wearing that. So
Nerd.
that's new in my closet. But this segment's called "What's New on Your Shelves?" And here we go. First up, it was my birthday this month of February. We're in the final days of February. Damn it! Hold on, sorry. So on my bookshelf for myself, I picked up a copy of Criminal. This is book 2 in the series. This is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. It's a gritty noir crime story set in the 70s, each one set in a different decade. I think this is, so the last one I read was 60s. I think this one's 70s. I think the next one's 80s. So really, really excited about reading that. So that's new on my bookshelf. And then recently I purchased a 4K of Mike Flanagan's amazing flick Hush. I keep talking about this on all my other podcasts too because this print is amazing. It has the silent film version of this called Shush, which is just really clever. It's clever titling. And the slipcase is really cool. So, but what a great film. If you haven't seen this, it is now streaming too on a lot of streaming services. Check it out. It's a great slasher flick. I love it. So that's it for me. That's what's new on my stuff this month. What's up with you?
Well, because we're still in February. Oh, and also, don't even mention the Christmas gift I gave you. It's cool. It's cool. You did get some awesome birthday gift. I'm sorry that I gave you, but it's cool. It's not on the shelf.
I don't have them
and
framed
it's not,
yet. Yeah.
And it's not on the shelf, but we
I'm
can
getting
tell.
the frames for those this month, so I'll have.
It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe I'll have that next time. So
I'm just being a jerk. But anyways.
Hey, I got this on. You got me this for Christmas. So.
Oh, that's true. So there you go. Or birthday or whatever. Christmas, birthday. We get them all confused.
Yeah. Well, birthday. Yeah. What gift?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, so because it's still February, which means it's still winter, I wanted to build the snowman, and I wanted to make him my own best friend. So let's build a snowman. That's right.
Cannibal the Musical.
I got the newly remastered Betamax version
Oh, classy.
of Cannibal the Musical. And the reason why I say Betamax because apparently they couldn't find the original film stock, so they had to composite like a whole bunch of different things and Frankenstein this thing. And
how's it look?
Well, that's the thing that's really interesting. It's got 2 discs.
Okay.
And people would think, why do you need this movie to have 2 discs? Oh, maybe the special features is on one and the other. No, boys and girls. It has 2 discs because it has 2 different kinds of masters. They remastered the only kind of film grain that they could find of it, which I thought was interesting, which does not look good.
Really?
But then so they then sliced an old Betamax when they created this film, when Trey Parker created this, which looks even more amazing than I have ever seen this movie, which is crazy to believe. And
that's awesome.
They could not make it a 4K because the film stock is so terrible. They could not make it into a 4K because they were worried they would mess up the film that they had.
That's a fun one, though. I'm not even a musical fan, and that movie makes me laugh every time I watch it.
Love this movie. It's one of my favorite things that the Trey Parker and Matt Stone have ever done. So it's very enjoyable. It's from the Digressor video line, part of Vinegar Syndrome. It's one of their third party companies that they use. But it's so entertaining, and if you get a chance, just go on their website and look at the guy doing the remaster because he made his own video and like parody of the songs, so it's really entertaining. So, I mean, I wish they would have added that to the special features, but they added a whole bunch of stuff, some archival stuff, because the original was, most people don't realize, is a trauma release. So, good old Uncle Lloyd Kaufman hanging out with the South Park guys is kind of funny. and talk about independent cinema, its trauma. So
Uncle
there's
Lloyd.
that. And Uncle Lloyd, who I've met a couple times, and he's zany as he is in those videos, as he is in real life.
I was going to say, I've met him too with you. He's as weird in real life as you would imagine he would be, but I love him. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He made me laugh really hard twice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's me on my shelf. That's all I got for you.
okay. Next month, we're going to be discussing with a special guest who will be announced over our social medias in the coming weeks. We're going to discuss 1996 thriller comedy Curdled, starring Angela Jones, William Baldwin, Bruce Ramsey, Lois Chiles, Barry Corbin, and Mel Gorham. This was a Tarantino release off of his, I believe it was Rolling Thunder Pictures. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. That
Yep.
is what the box art had.
That was
his
back in
little
the
face
day.
on top.
Yep,
In 1996.
Tarantino released in the mid to late 90s some old Grindhouse films and a couple of new films under that Rolling Thunder Pictures, and this is one of them. I haven't seen it in more than a decade, so I'm looking forward to talking about it. It is a fun time. Who directed that? Let me look here and see. Tarantino produced it. Reb Braddock directed it, which looks like, let's see. Reb Braddock did Offerings and Lethal Justice, so not a lot on that.
There you go.
So, but it's a fun flick, and we will talk about it in depth on the next
I
episode of
believe
Uncle.
it's also a remake of a French film.
Of a French film. That's right. That is correct. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I should have mentioned that. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of Uncle Ray's Corner. Uncle Ray's Corner, come on over to our side of the internet, talk about a bunch of shit you probably don't care about. I love that tagline. I know you're not a fan, but it makes me
Yeah,
laugh.
I mean, it's a wonderful tagline.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just a guest on this beautiful show.
You're the co-host for now, all right?
Until you find someone more beautiful and stunning, which is fine. That's fine.
I've come to realize that if you put breasts on a thumbnail, that people will come. So we maybe need to do that. Maybe I'll put smash.
Hey,
mine
I have a
together.
beautiful beard. That's that's good. That's all I got for you. I got a beautiful beard.
As always, thank you for watching. I am Ray McGuff.
I'm Jean Paul Mantilla, Movie Reviews, Bookie 75. Whatever else you want to call me, I don't care.
Check us out on YouTube, Uncle Ray's Corner. Check me out on Randy Wotan at TikTok for now. Also check out our sister show, Last Roundup Horror Show. Get yourself some bite-sized morsels over on the TikTok. But check out Movie Reviews. It's always opposite when I do this. So check out Movie Reviews. Either way, and get yourself some reviews. But thank you for watching, and stay tuned.